Dude, we're super excited to have the founder of Aventures with us today. Production, is he ready to go? Yes. All right. Tamer.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I am doing great, guys. A lot of things. So first of all, it's amazing to be here.
Yes.
Second of all, I am taking some downtime in the bear market.
Sure.
I'm in the beach side in Turkey. So anyone wants to come to Turkey, it's a beautiful place. I don't want to get Firestorm jealous. But yeah, I'm in Bodrum on a beach house, looking at the sea, getting some nice fish every day, here with my family, spending a lot of time with my daughter. So yeah, I definitely had worse days. So I'm not complaining.
That's great. That's great.
I'm trying to look at the charts a lot less than what I used to look at, which means I'm checking in every 10 minutes instead of every 2 minutes now. And I'm trying to read the crypto Twitter less than what I used to, which again means I check it every half an hour, not constantly. So,
Tamer,
probably a good policy. Yeah.
2 minutes to 10 minutes is a 5x improvement. Not gonna lie, I haven't seen any recent X's in any good way. So that's good. That means the downtime, the vacation is working.
Yeah, you gotta. I mean, the downtime is really important, man. I mean, you're making me jealous over here. So you talk about making Firestorm jealous. I'm feeling a little jealous now. That sounds amazing.
I'm on a gas giant in the middle of a storm. While
yeah, I don't know.
His fresh food.
Tamer, I don't know if you know this, but Firestorm actually broadcasts his signal from Jupiter all the way down to Earth, and every week. And so that's like he's just always up to something. You know what I mean? But anyway, I wanted to bring it back to here and now, and thank you so much for being on the show. Typically, when we welcome our guests, we like to get a little bit of background. And so if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving us, if you could kind of summarize your story and what brought you to this point and how Aventures got started, I'm sure our viewers and listeners would love to hear, where you're coming from and how you got here.
Sure. So my background is I'm originally from Turkey, living in London. I have a PhD in operations management, spent most of my career in strategic consulting and M&A space, in technology and telco. So I have been involved in a lot of acquisitions that you may have read in newspaper. Then I moved to IBM, where I'd been leading the enterprise blockchain practice in the London office, which got me a lot more interested in blockchain and also crypto. I've been investing in crypto since 2017, so this is my second bear market. The first one was worse in terms of the percentage terms, but in absolute terms, I think this is more painful. Then I've been a DeFi degen since the start of DeFi. I've been very active in Avalanche since day one.
Sure.
Then what happened is last year in August, I'd been trying to raise some seed capital for Kalao. With some of my DAO friends, we were investing in other chains. And I realized that they weren't very interested in Avalanche, but I had very good connections. Then in August, I wrote the light paper, which was the starting of Aventures DAO, shared with a couple of the guys like Jomari, Leo, Justin, Slow Cheetah. So some of the well-known developers, OGs in the Avalanche ecosystem, to tell them, guys, we need a venture DAO which focuses on Avalanche deals, where we can provide a lot more than capital to the projects that you are working with. We can give them technical support, we can give them marketing support, we can give them partnerships, we can introduce them to the ecosystem. It was just an idea. And since September, we have been investing in a lot of projects in GameFi, DeFi, and infrastructure. Those are the three main things that we like.
Sure.
And then yeah, we are trying to add as much value as we can to the ecosystem. We now have 25 DAO members. Almost all of them are well-known Avalanche OGs. I tried to recruit Firestorm in the past as well, and he didn't join me, which is still sad, but I'll get over it.
What a hater.
Man, like, I'm always there, always available. First of all, like, I just want to echo some of the things you said, right? Aventures DAO, fantastic group of people, also an investor into DEX a lot, right? And quite frankly, there aren't that many people that I turn to ask for opinion, ask for help, or ask for just general knowledge, right? And Tamer obviously has been one of those people. Leo, Coop, Jamari, those are the guys that I actually joined the Friday weekly wraps, and it's been amazing, man. You guys are doing God's work, if you will, in the Avalanche space. And I guess this is a thank you for the entire community. I feel like most of actually for Aventures, I'm sure it's a very thankless job. Obviously, you guys are investing, and there is some upside for you as well, but some of the cool things that you guys are doing probably goes without applause. So I kind of want to extend a thank you on behalf of the ecosystem.
No, thank you very much for the kind words. But remember, we are the evil VCs. Everyone hates us because for most of the public, our role is getting cheap tokens and dumping on the public. That is what we are known for. Which is sad, but anyway.
Well, I'll tell you.
Thanks for the kind words.
Why don't I counter what you just said, or what the community thinks of? I can't really vouch for all the VCs, but when I'm also an advisor to Snail Trail, obviously, and when we were talking about the tokenomics, Aventures, particularly Tamer, was the person who actually advocated for longer locks, more longer term sort of partnerships, etc. So I want that to be on the record as a part of our stream, since that was the topic, so I can at least remember that as soon as you said that. So I vehemently deny that allegation, at least for Aventures.
Uh-oh, shots fired.
No, I mean, Aventures is not evil. Aventures
I know. I'm just
everybody should want on their cap table. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Anyways, before this love fest goes too crazy, we can switch gears. Tamer, I actually have a question that I wanted to ask you. And this isn't something I chatted to you about, but I was thinking like the other day, and I feel like you're going to be the person to discuss this, if I may. So algorithmic stablecoins, right? We obviously had the Luna USD situation. Now USDD seems to be either a replica of USD, or some people think it's bait and it's not going to fail. But on a more philosophical level, I would like to ask you, do you think algorithmic stablecoins are truly dead, or can they still work if certain parameters of how Luna was done differently?
That's the perfect question to start. Because if some of you guys know me or followed me on Twitter, I was very bullish on Luna. So it was my second biggest position after AVAX. And I've been very vocal about USD depegging event. I was saying potentially USD will not go to zero, and I share my opinion, which I regret now, and hopefully no one made any investment based on my stupidity. But so I think algorithmic stablecoins are there two parts. One is the philosophical part, which do I want them to work versus do I think there's an easy way for them to work? Do I want them to work? Definitely. I think in DeFi, to really talk about decentralized finance, we need some stable coins that are not bound to institutions or the governance, that they cannot be turned on and off by just a couple of people. So that was the reason that I really like the idea of USD, because it's not like Tether or USDC or BUSD, whatever big ones that you want to think about. About pegging, depegging, for me, it all depends on what is the governance token or the reserve token that the algorithmic stablecoin uses and how robust that is. So in Luna USD case, there was always a one-to-one. So if you trust USD, you trust Luna, and then it will create a virtuous circle when things were going well, and it creates a vicious circle when we are in the debt spiral. What Tron is trying to do is very similar to what Luna did. The only difference is they have a lot more collateral backing it. That's the reason that people are thinking more stable. But do I trust that? Probably not. I think it is too early for a lot of stable coins to show if they can pass through the stress tests. You know traditional finance much better than I do. I think what we are facing now is a real life stress test for some of the risky assets that we have. Some of the stable coins, I don't think that they will, even if they will survive, I don't think people have enough confidence on those assets. And I will move to another topic about centralized, decentralized, maybe changing topic a little, but this also shows me that as a community, as a crypto community that we are not ready for full decentralization as well. We still want a trusted entity to watch our back, which is interesting as itself, because we can talk about that one later as well.
It turned out to be Alameda, right? Or sorry, not Alameda, FTX, which I thought was kind of ironic in the grand scheme of things. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, continue.
No. That's completely so. For stable coins, we want Circle, or we want whatever is backing Tether. I think no one knows. Or that Binance BUSD. We want an entity, and we want to make sure that there's someone behind it to give us trust that will not go to zero. In terms of the market-wise stake, I'm not sure what FTX is doing. And then the reason is, for me, they are just buying cheap debt because they have a lot of cash. And if those centralized protocols won't pay their debt, they will be the first in line to get their capital back, which may potentially be the funds of the people or potentially the customers. So I don't see it as Sam saving the ecosystem. I see Sam placing his bets on some distressed assets where if they go belly up, he can get them at a discount. Or maybe I'm just devil's advocate. I don't know. What do you think about it?
Interesting. I mean, there's a lot to unpack in your answer. One thing that now I got to go back and check is I saw the BlockFi announcement relating to the FTX credit line that was extended. I thought they were actually behind investors, etc., in the case of a default. I'm going to go back and check. I can't remember because I read it in the morning. But going back to the first part of your question, I think my view is a little bit more extreme. I honestly think algorithmic stable coins could work. And looking at the reasons as to why trials so far haven't worked, there's always something glaring, right? Now, if we think about traditional capital markets, the way capital is managed and the way the solvency of the entities that facilitate movement of money, they arrived at certain safeguards, let's call them, over many years of trial and error. Let's be real, in 2008, there was a big risk of very large banks failing. Maybe not the largest, But if you have like not rank, I don't know, 5 and 4 fail, then all of them were going to fail, right? And at the back of, you know, the events of 2018, there were a lot of new regulations, new capital requirements, new stress testing requirements, etc., were passed to further bolster the system. I kind of view, you know, however painful, I kind of view these events like Luna, or in the past we've had Tether DPEG, we've had DAI DPEG, right? Like I view these events as just iterations towards a more sustainable model. I don't know if it will truly be sustainable in one point, but in the case of Luna UST, the marketing and the speed with which users were acquired was so fast that the capital that could back the capital that was actually incurred, the total amount of capital, you know, that was available for liquidity was just too small. Like if you compare, like I looked at this actually, if you compared the maximum amount of capital that was incurred to the amount of USD that was minted, it was less, or like it was less than 3%. It was around like 2.8%, I believe. Traditional banks have to have like up to 7 or 8% in, you know, when we simplify and look at the same ratios. So I feel like it wasn't necessarily the way, you know, the supply and demand was managed, but one of the bigger things there was that there just wasn't enough liquidity or enough collateral, as you say, to maintain the emissions that they were doing and to maintain and then prevent a bank run. So I really think that there will be more iterations. For example, there's Frax, right, which is looking to do a partially collateralized, partially algorithmic solution. They have inflation pegged tokens, etc. And I think this is a very cool experiment. Yes, again, painful. Like obviously that event, you know, hurt a lot of us, me included. But I think there is still light. I think it's very easy for people to lose faith when one thing fails. But the only innovation we ever achieved was through the failures of the previous tries. You know, and it's true for mankind, right? So I just want to say that I feel like there is going to be more trials in the future. Maybe not in a as flashy way, because you know Do Kwon was doing crazy things, but maybe in a slow and steady growth manner. Because alternatively, you have the circles of the world, which, you know, once the regulation comes, it's not going to really be that different from something like the Federal Reserve Bank, you know, running the monetary system, right?
I agree. A couple of reflections based on what you said. For me, one thing that, to be honest, I hadn't thought 2 months ago, but now I'm very much focused is when we are talking about pegging, depegging of the assets, the main thing that we are looking at is the curve pools. And the liquidity in the curve pool and the balance in the curve pool is basically determining if any of the stable coins is really pegged or depegged. And that's how you said UST had just 3% of the liquidity in the curve pool. That's why it was much easier for it to get depegged. That's one. Second is, and this is what I want to also discuss with you, is because we talk about collateralized stables versus algorithmic stables. But in the end, for me, in the very basic terms, you are still pegging the value of one of those assets to that. So for example, let's say DAI. DAI is seen more stable because it is collateralized versus Ethereum. But if we had a bank run, like how it happens to Luna, losing 99% of its value within 24 hours, I'm not sure that DAI will keep its peg, even if it's 150% ETH collateralized.
Agreed. And like there is multiple effects, right? If DAI was to go into some sort of a, you know, even if temporary DPEG situation, that's going to create downward pressure on ETH, or alternatively, if ETH is dropping a lot, like, you know, it changes the dynamics. And like the collateral being in a volatile asset is definitely a problem. That's why I personally liked Frax. Frax had both the collateralized aspect as well as the algorithmic mint and burn mechanism. Like having both of them, in my opinion, may present a sort of better safeguard against DPEG, yet it's still possible. It's in the end, I think it comes down to sentiment. As weird as it sounds, you have all these mechanisms, and these mechanisms are only effective as long as people believe them to be effective. Once you lose the belief, just like losing belief in, say, the US government or some emerging market country government, your assets will start losing value because people will be running for the exits, right? I still think there is more things to be tried, basically.
Yeah, agreed. And also, keeping a peg is a very hard job. And you can even see it on TradFi. People have been talking about what's happening in Japan in the last couple of weeks. And you can explain it much better than I do. I'll just put it out there. The main reason that the Japanese central bank is now having issues that they have to print a lot of yen is they are trying to peg their 10-year government bonds on a 0.25% or 25 basis point interest rate. That is so basically they're trying to peg it to zero. The maximum is 25 basis points. Because they're trying to peg it on an interest rate which doesn't reflect the real market conditions when the whole world is increasing interest rates, they are in the trouble of minting a lot of yen. It is, if you think about it, is almost like having an algorithmic coin.
It's exactly algorithmic, except humans manually execute the algo, right? It's exactly the same mechanism, really.
Yeah, and we have seen how it works, and hopefully the second or third biggest economy in the world will be more rational in the near future and they will learn from what happened to Luna. So yeah, I think we believe some of the mistakes we make are basically in DeFi or intrinsic to DeFi, which definitely not. I think we see it a lot in other markets as well.
And I mean, like, if you think about it, some of the reasons as to why I actually want to say, like, there's been a lot of central bankers around the world who studied these monetary systems, who understand the pegs, who understand how these things should or have worked so far. And the people building in our space don't necessarily have that experience, right? So we're still in the trial and error phase of all this. By the way, in the real world as well, crazy things do happen. I mean, when the SNB decided to say, we're no longer going to peg our currency, that was a watershed moment as well, right? The Swiss National Bank. And, one of the reasons why they did that is because, bro, it's very difficult to keep a peg. It costs a lot of money. It costs very difficult operations. And if you get it right, you're going to wreck your entire country's economy, right? I remember that day quite vividly because, people had no idea what to do because everybody had come to expect the peg to be backed by the SMB, and poof, all of a sudden it had disappeared. Yeah, anyways, I mean, this is a sort of an evolving topic. I wanted to hear your opinions. Like I said, you're one of the few people that I'd like to hear these perspectives from. So thank you very much for that.
No, I'm always happy to discuss, and I think in the coming weeks or months we will continue discussing these things, which is, I look forward to having more Twitter spaces with you on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we would love
Jimmy,
to have you.
You've been so silent, bro. I feel bad.
I mean,
I want to let you say some stuff as well. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
I get carried away. You know how it goes.
What I wanted to say was, chat, are you guys taking notes? Because you're listening to like a very informative and like just I mean, I just got to thank Firestorm and Tamer. Every time one of these conversations happens on the show, I feel like my brain is growing. Have you seen the meme with the guy who keeps going back to his library and putting like epoxy on his head to make it look like his brain's growing from all the books he's reading? I actually feel like that guy. after I listen to these conversations. So thank you, fellas.
Much
Chat, there's going to
appreciated.
be a quiz later. So I sincerely hope you guys were taking notes. I wasn't joking about that. We're going to put out a quiz online. So it's important. It's important.
I have at least one more interesting question for Tamer.
Oh yeah, well, I love interesting
This
questions.
this one is a very short and quick answer, I think, but we'll see how he maneuvers around it. Tamer, are we at the bottom? And if not, when is the bottom, buddy? Tell us, man. Drop the alpha.
I wish I could say we're at the bottom. I don't think we are. I think what we had over the weekend was a local bottom. I think there is more pain to come. And in my mind, there are a couple of reasons why I feel this way. First of all, I think the rate hikes will continue, and that will impact all the asset prices. The second thing is, which is out of control of the central bank, is like right now the supply chains are broken, which means that the inflation that a lot of people think transitionary probably will be with us until we fix some more structural problems, which means that when you change the interest rate hikes, the inflation will not go as dramatic as you want, and potentially you will need the central bank measures in a longer time period. And the last part is we are operating in the riskiest asset class out there. And beyond being the riskiest asset class, which has a lot more pressure on the price action, if you have been in this space long enough, if you have been an investor since 2018, most people are on the green. And when you get a margin call for your Amazon stock or Apple stock, probably today it's easier to sell your Solana you bought at 10 cents 2 years ago than selling your Amazon stock. So I think there's a lot of link between how the asset is risky versus people are being on green versus people getting the margin calls. I will let you describe what a margin call is. You're much smarter than I am on those things. But I don't want to give you a doomsday scenario to everyone. I think the reversal will be quicker than a lot of us are expecting. So people are expecting the inflation to start correcting in November, which means that probably before that we will start seeing the impact and some of the corrections into the market, in the market, or at least this is my expectation. And the secondary thing is people have been talking about, oh, are we in the recession? Are we not in the recession? We are in the recession. Most of the indicators people are looking are backward looking. So what happened last month is our indicators for this month, which means whatever pain that we will be facing in the future, we already started feeling it. So I think we can start looking at the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think we are out of the pain yet. I think there's another pain for at least 3 months. But I'm very bullish on crypto, and I have I see the chat. People are talking about price predictions. I have my price targets, and probably in the next couple of months, I will start deploying a lot more capital into crypto than I had in the last 2 months.
You heard it here, folks.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Firestorm.
Yeah, I'm getting good at this, man.
I love it, man. I love it. You love to see it.
So, well, what do you think, Firestorm or Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, my view is similar. To be honest
For the
with you,
Firestorm.
the supply chain issues are real. Like you try to order anything, and I'm not joking. Order stuff on Amazon. Order stuff.
Oh yeah.
That is produced elsewhere. The shipment times are much longer. it's difficult to find stuff that's, you know, less available already, yada, yada, yada. So the supply chain situation, though, I'm wondering if it's still truly related to COVID or if it is now the newer identified weapon in inter-country sort of shenanigans, right? So that's one of the things I'm questioning nowadays, to be honest with you, because these problems can be solved, right? Like if people truly want to solve them, like if China wants to solve these issues, they can. Let's be real. And they can do it a lot better than the US, to be honest with you. And I agree with you. There is going to be more pain. And like, I think there is chances of more, like they call it black swan events. In reality, you don't get black swans. Black swan is like supposed to be a statistical term, right? But we got two of them, actually more than two. We had Luna, then we had Celsius, then we had 3AC. You know, God knows what other crazy types of risk is sort of lurking out there, like this fiasco with the Solend platform. I personally believe that was a fiasco, right? Where they took control of the assets of one of the customers on the platform.
Was crazy. That was insane.
So that they could, and to be honest with you, while I disagree with it, I do understand why they did it, right? Like if there is no liquidity on chain, that has the ability to blow up a lot more than just that one user. And I do understand the reasoning behind it. But there is more esoteric risk out there, I believe, that when the equities market starts suffering more is going to, you know, come down with it.
Sure.
November, I honestly don't know. Like you always have the elections, and for elections, you know, people want to go in with a market that is stronger. So I feel like Fed will definitely have to respond and change gears at one point. And you know, next, actually no, 2024 is the U.S. Presidential election year, right? I think that's going to be a tricky year where, you know, things again may get out of hand.
That's going to be a mess.
Yeah, and like, you know, given where we're now, like economy is the single biggest force that people vote by, right? And I feel like if the economy is actually getting worse rather than getting better, it's going to be difficult for another Democratic president to be elected. I personally feel.
It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting.
I think this is going to be a very prolonged overall bear market, right? Unlike 2008. Overall, I'm not talking crypto, I'm talking in general. 2008 started basically in the beginning of 2008, and it was done by mid-2009, so it was a year and a half. So for the macro markets, I feel it's going to take a little bit longer. But it may actually create a situation where crypto decouples from the markets like it did or like it was before all the market makers really started taking over, right? Given that the assets are completely different, they're not backed, and blah, blah, blah. So I feel like crypto will recover earlier than the macro markets, but when, I have no idea. I really don't know.
Well, I'll tell you guys, it's getting harder and harder as an action figure and sneaker collector to get these things. So I need my little painted guys. You know what I mean?
You gotta get in line.
Chain issues are real, man. I got my X-Men display is missing a couple really important pieces. You know,
you gotta get in line, and you gotta wait 8 months to get an action figure. I'm sure.
It's crazy out here. Do have to say shout out to Premolar 97. Thanks for joining us. This has been another like my brain just grew again. Thank you for that. Chat, if you better have been taking notes. Tamer, this has been awesome. Would you think about joining us again to talk about the markets and run circles around me and Firestorm here? Would that be cool?
I am always happy to join and chit chat with you guys. I always say by Firestorm, when he pings me for anything, I say whatever you want, I'll do it. So
that's awesome, man.
Much appreciated, my good sir. And it's, you know, likewise, absolutely.
Yes, it was a pleasure having you, and we would love to have you back anytime. So let's make it happen.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Tamer.
Thanks so much for joining, man. Pleasure as always.
Thanks. Yeah, it was great. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Take care.
Yeah.